So a post is just like a text. So if I do a post on like my general, it's just a message everyone gets. Okay. A thread is kind of a cleaner way. So I usually have my parents do threads. So the way it works, let's see. I guess you could open your Utah Youth Tennis and go to general, and you'll notice that people can do a little reply button. So the little reply, that's a thread. So it keeps it cleaner. So if I have a question that only pertains to one thing, I'm going to do a thread rather than another post. Okay? That way it only bothers the people that it is related to, if that makes sense. Let's see. Will these play? I don't know if they'll play. Anyways, if you want more info, there's a bunch of videos. There's a whole slideshow. You can go look at it. Oh, Thomas Hughes just logged in. Okay, cool. Let's see. What's this last one? And if you just want a quick review instead of going through absolutely everything, there's just one review thing. And if you're looking for any of Utah Youth Tennis videos, they're just under our YouTube channel. So you can find like our training videos. So like red ball training or the on-court training, you can find all of it on our YouTube. Okay, we're gonna keep rolling here though. Okay. So this is the website I was talking about. You should have a link to it. This is going to be updated regularly. So right now, it has what's going on right now. So those are the 4 things you need to complete in the coach's handbook that you need to read through. Make sure you read through that coach handbook. It's going to really explain things really well for you. Okay? So we have training meetings up. Soon that's going to switch and it's going to be match stuff, match schedule, match everything, okay? So we're going to keep this updated as we go through the season. Here's your coach reps again. So if you don't know where you are supposed to be, coach rep wise, this is who you find, okay? There's also the season schedule. So if you're kind of wondering and you kind of have some stuff coming up and you want to see what's going on with UYT, here's the whole season for you. It kind of goes through all the matches, the fall break for Alpine School District, and then all the end of season tournaments, okay? So the schedule's on the website. We also have a templates. This is for head coaches. Any template you're going to need is on here, okay? So we're going to ask that you email. You should have your rosters for your team, and we're going to ask that you, well, for middle school and high school, you should have the rosters. Elementary, you'll get them next week. Once you have your roster, you're going to want to send out a first email to your team, okay? The template is on here. You can use and you can edit however you would like. But you want to make sure you do that soon, and you want to make sure that you let them know that you're only using Slack after you send out this email, okay? So edit it how you want, but it's on there. Let's see, what else is on here? Training dates, coach's contract, okay. So here's the Slack tutorials that I was talking about that you can find that we just went through that have all the videos. And then it has templates for every section of the season. So first week of practice, regular season, and postseason, okay? So this has stuff like, let's see. This is what I use to send. Can you see that? So you want to have your whole team not show up at the whole time, or all at the same time. So when you're doing like a middle school or elementary school match and you have 25 kids and there are only 8 varsity spots and there's only 3 courts, you're not going to have all 25 kids show up at 3:30, okay? So you're going to let them know. This is what I usually use, is my little template. And this is if they had 6 courts. I would have to adjust it if there were like 4 or 3, okay? Generally speaking, you want to tell your varsity and however many players to get there 15 minutes early so they can warm up. And then after that first match, it's a 45-minute break, and then it's 30 after that, okay? Because for some reason, the first matches always take way longer than the rest of them, no matter if you're doing elementary or middle school or high school. For some reason, the first ones always take forever. But you can, any template, you're just going to have to make your own copy and use. If you don't want to use any of the templates, you don't have to either. This is just to make your life easier. Okay. Let's see. There's also, if you have parents who have questions, we have a handbook for all the different sections. One thing that's super helpful if you're doing elementary, in the elementary parent handbook, it goes over sizes of rackets that kids should have, depending on like their height and age. So if you have a parent who comes and asks you what kind of racket they need and you don't know, the elementary parent handbook is going to tell you, okay? One thing you really don't want is like a 10-year-old with like a racket that's 20 years old and is like weighs as much as they, yeah, it weighs as much as they do and they have to really choke up on it. You don't want that, okay? I will say if you're a high school coach, the format is different than middle school and elementary, so make sure you read up on the high school match format. Okay, let's keep rolling. Oh, let's see, what else do we have on here? There's a whole Slack tab if you need Slack help. So it's just videos that you can go through. If you just click on the little arrow, it'll go through how to access, troubleshoot, workspaces. There's a workspace video, channels. It'll go through everything with you to make you feel a little more comfortable. If you have parents that are struggling, I also made videos that are parent specific, so it's really dumbed down. And it's basically, here's how to log in, here's how to message my coach. And that's all I gave them. Okay. Any questions on this? We're just going to keep rolling then. If you need practice ideas or practice help, you're going to want to go to the practice thing. You can also message Lori Lambert. She did our training on Tuesday. She's super awesome. She has lots of ideas. You can also check the coaches tip or coaching tips channel on Slack. So seasoned coaches are going to make posts about what they do for practices. So you can always check there, or you can ask your coach rep for coaching or drill ideas, okay? But there's a lot of stuff on here that you can use. Subbing. Okay, subbing is always a big deal because we're just getting bigger and bigger and people have lives, and that's okay that you have lives. You can have lives besides tennis. Coaches are in charge of finding their own subs though. So you're going to want to start early if you know you're going to be out of town. So start thinking now about what you're going to do about it. First steps, you can look and ask the coach reps who you can ask. Next step, we have a list of all our coaches right here. It's probably easier to find someone who does the opposite thing of you to sub, because girls practice Monday, Wednesday generally, boys practice Tuesday, Thursday generally. So if you're a Tuesday, Thursday coach, you're going to want to find someone who's Monday, Wednesday, so they can sub for you without skipping their own class, okay? So make a buddy, make a friend, help each other out throughout the season. That's what I usually did, is I'd just make a friend and we'd sub for each other whenever one of us was out, okay? Okay, so start planning ahead early. This needs to be updated, but that's Rob, that's our director. If you see him, he's actually out there with like 1 million elementary school kids because he's doing a free, what's the word? Clinic. Thank you. A free clinic right now, so he's out there wrangling like 60 elementary kids. But he's super fun. And then there's all your coach reps again. Okay, and then frequently asked questions. Okay, so if you have a question and your coach rep isn't really answering you right away, you can come check real quick right here, see if it's here. If not, you can kind of just wait around for your coach rep. Or you can ask someone else's coach rep. I don't care. Just don't ask me, ask a coach rep instead of me. Okay, let's hop back over here. Okay. Let's talk about lineup for your team. So this is all going to be in the coach's handbook, so if you don't catch all of it, it's fine. But for middle school, your top 8 are varsity, the next 8 are JV, and then everyone after that is exhibition. Exhibition is just doubles. Your varsity has 2 single spots and then 3 doubles, same with JV. The varsity plays a 8-game pro set, no ad scoring, tiebreak at 7-all. It's different than other leagues because tiebreak is at 7-all. It's a normal 7-point tiebreak though. JV plays a set to 6, no ad scoring. Again, tiebreak is at 5-all. Normal 7-point tiebreak, win by 2. Yes. For elementary, it's a little different. You refer your top. it's still 8 though, right? For elementary? Yeah. Okay, your top 8 are varsity, 2 singles, and then everyone else is doubles. JV, everyone is doubles. There's no exhibition. Everyone is just doubles because your team is a lot smaller than middle school. Okay? Any questions on format, varsity, JV, anything like that? Yes. Good question. Okay, so the first week is kind of your figure out what my team is week. So the first 2 practices, what I suggest you doing is you're going to want to show all the beginners how to hit all of the strokes. So forehand, backhand, serve. You might get to volley. I probably wouldn't do a volley, but you definitely want to do forehand, backhand, serve because you want them to be, and scoring, because you want them to be able to play a match by the time you have your inter-team match. Okay? With your more advanced players, I would have them do king of the court and keep an idea of who ends where, if that makes sense. So then that's the first 2 days of practice. And then on your inter-team match, that same, so on Friday, if you're doing middle school, that's when you're going to have your inter-team match. And basically, you have 2 hours with your team to play a bunch of matches to figure out what you want your lineup to be. So I use my king of the court results to start where I kind of want to see what maybe my ladder's going to do. And I'm going to do short matches, okay? So maybe I'm going to have them play 3 games or 4 games and just keep track of the score. But you're going to want to do everything short so that you can get a lot of matches in and a lot of results, and you can kind of try and figure out what your lineup is. So that's how the first week is going to work. So you don't have a match that first week. You have an inter-team match where you basically have 2 hours to figure out your lineup, plus your 2 practices. Okay? Another thing that first inter-team match is for getting your beginner players good practice scoring and rotating on the court. Okay? So usually what I do is I throw my better players that I want to see matches. I put them out first on my inter-team match, and I grab all my beginners, and I have them watch and tell me like the score, and we'll work through, and so we have like an example. So I have 2 people playing and then my beginners, and we just kind of go through scoring and make sure they understand what's going on. And then when those people come off after their 3 or 4 games, I'm going to throw the beginners on, and hopefully they will have maybe figured it out. Good question. Any other question about the first week of practice and inter-team match? Okay, same thing for elementary school. The first 2 days is introduce them to all the strokes, make sure they know how to score for the most part. You'll probably skip tiebreaker and save that for later, but they will need to know a tiebreaker by the end of the season. Yeah? So we don't mind if you start them at the service line at the beginning of the season, but by the end of the season for the postseason tournaments, you want them at the baseline. So they are on smaller courts, so we're orange ball size courts. So we'll give you the dimensions so you can use your rubber lines to make the courts for matches. So if they're really struggling, we would rather have them hitting some than not. So they can start at the service line, but I would suggest every match you have, I just move them a couple feet back until they're at the baseline. Yeah. Tapping. It doesn't have to be like a full continental grip or anything like that, but yes, we do want it over the head. We do want to start them because a lot of them are going to be fine, and a lot of them it's going to be a lot of work to figure out how to toss a ball and swing, and we want to start them early on that because it's kind of exciting. Did I see another hand? Yeah.
How flexible are the team lineups? Like 4 weeks in, if you're like, oh, I got it wrong, you want to change it?
Flexible. It's your team. You can do it how you want it. So if you see someone has just jumped up in improvement, what I would suggest still doing challenge matches because you have to be able to explain to a parent why things are the way they are. If you don't have a good reason, they are going to just like fillet you. So make sure you have good solid results and like a good reason other than this like, I think they're better. That's not a real reason. So yes, you can adjust, but you want to make sure that you have the stuff to back it up if a parent comes to you. Because some parents don't care. Some probably will a lot though. You know how parents are. Some of you are probably parents, so got that fighter instinct. Okay, good question. Other questions about first week of practice and lineup? It is your team, so you can run it how you want. We have plenty of suggestions, but it's really up to you and your assistants how you want to run practice and matches, okay? Stacking, another thing. So your best player has to play first singles or first doubles, okay? They cannot play anything else. And your worst player either has to play second singles or third doubles, okay? You can't stack your better players to try and win matches for seeding purposes, okay? So it's still like, I guess, high school stuff. So your perceived better players have to play the better positions, okay? I will say on my teams, the first two have been really obvious, and after that, everyone was kind of all the same. So you might have that, you might have really clear lines, but on some of them, you're just going to have a lot of intermediate players that look kind of really similar. So it might be tough, the lower half of your bracket, to figure out. Okay, any other questions? Lineup, practice? Okay. If you're wanting practice ideas, make sure you go and watch last year's on-court stuff with Lori Lambert. We'll get this year's on soon, so you can watch that too, but she has a lot of good ideas about what to do for practice. Okay. Yes? Okay. You can handle it however you want, but if he can kick everyone else's butt, I don't think it matters if you play him above. We know people have other commitments. We know that they play other sports. We know that they even go to other tennis lessons, and a lot of parents sign up just for the match experience. So if they are your best player and you don't care that they don't come to practices, I would just tell other players, like, this kid could kick your butt, and you're just going to have to deal with it. It's not that clear?
Could you do something like maybe have the parents arrange a challenge for a match between two?
You can do stuff outside of practice if you want to. Because once the season starts, you don't have a lot of time. We have a really short season, so you don't have a lot of time to do challenge matches after that first week. So if you have players who want to do challenge matches outside, that's fine if you want to. For that situation, that's just tough. Did he lose matches ever, or did he always win? Okay. Back and forth? Okay. Well, you might have a talk with that parent and of the player who doesn't show up, and if he doesn't care that he gets mixed around, they know that they're not coming to practices, so you can just explain. You're not really coming to practices, and there are players that are, and they are getting better, so you probably just navigate it that way. Okay. Hand?
I was just saying maybe they could show up early to a match or late to a match and play just like 3 games.
Oh yeah, that's true. Because 3 games doesn't take too long. 3 games isn't super decisive unless it's like 3-0. I don't know. You can message me during the season if you have that happen again, and I'll help you. Okay. Okay, everyone plays a match. So whoever shows up, and you'll have kids every week where you're not sure if they're going to show up or not. They get to play no matter what. So if they show up and you're just like, hey, dude, I did not know you were coming, but I'm happy you're here, and you find them a place to play, okay? You want to make sure you talk with your opposing coach early, okay? So on like Tuesday, I'm going to start my conversation with the other coach. I'm going to be like, hey, I've got 18 players. I think 16 are coming. I'm going to check with 2, and I'll like get back to you. So, and then the day of, you're going to re-check in. We're going to be like, hey, we're for sure on your courts at 3:30. I'll be there at 3:15. To kind of go over stuff, and I for sure have 15 players coming, okay? So you want to make sure that you're both on the same page and that you are both on the same page about where the match is at, because we've had players like drive past each other, like Provo and Timberline, like Provo and Alpine, they've drove past each other because they thought they were playing at each other's courts. So double check the match schedule and double check with the other coach that you're going to the same place, okay? And if you have a smaller team, you need to make sure that you talk with the other coach and make sure that they're going to ask their players beforehand to stay for 2 matches. So I always had a smaller team, so I always asked my players before I had like 15, and if we were playing like a 20 or 22 player team, I would tell my players, plan on playing 2 matches. And if they didn't, yippee, they got to go home early. But they knew that they were coming for 2, their parents knew they were coming for 2. That way you don't have players packing up and mom's got all of her chairs in the back of the car and you're like, wait, can you stay for a match? You don't want to do that, okay? So if you have the smaller team, you need to make sure that your players know that they are probably going to play 2 matches, okay? So that the other team can have enough matches for all their players. Any questions? Okay. Same thing if you have like an odd number, because everyone in exhibition does doubles. You can just throw anyone with that player to play. It doesn't matter who, just throw them in. If you're doing an elementary match and you're at the very, very end, usually it's all of the players who are not very good at hitting. Pro tip, throw in 1 good person and the match will go a little bit faster, so you're not there all day. But if you want to be there all day, that's fine. I usually just threw in just 1 good player just to keep it rolling. You know, just 1 person who can hit, and you're gold. Okay, we did go over inter-team match. Okay, the first week, another thing you're going to want to do is have a parent meeting, okay? So I usually just tell my parents when they're picking up their kids, stop by for a 5-minute meeting. And then I just tell them we're just using Slack, so hop on Slack. If they're not on Slack, I can just grab their phone. You can add people to Slack right away. If you just go on here and click that top left corner, and then if you click your 3 dots, you can invite members. So if you have a parent who's like, I didn't get added, you can add them, or you can message your coach rep or the admin team and they can add them. But I would do that really fast at the parent meeting. That way you have them on Slack and they can get your messages real quick, okay? You're going to want to make sure to remind them when practice times are and when matches are. You won't get the match schedule until the 2nd week of practices. So after your inter-team match, the next week you'll get your match schedule, and then you'll have 5 matches, 4 if you're elementary, okay? You also want to tell them kind of what to expect if there's like weather problems. You want to let them know that, hey, if it's kind of a rainy day, I'm going to wait until an hour before practice before I tell you we're canceling or not, okay? That's Utah Youth Tennis policy, so you really need to wait until an hour before practice before you make a decision, okay? So if it's an hour before and it's raining and it looks like it's going to keep raining, you can go ahead and cancel practice. If it's an hour before and it says like 70% chance of rain, you're not going to cancel because the courts aren't wet yet, okay? So you can't cancel until the courts are wet and it is at least 1 hour before practice, okay? Part of the reason is because we are in Utah, the weather changes really quite a bit, and it could be dry, and it probably will be dry, okay? So don't cancel prematurely, you gotta wait an hour before. You need to talk with your coach rep. You cannot cancel a practice without talking to your coach rep, okay? Part of that is just so we don't cancel prematurely. We have a lot of teams and we use a lot of court space, and to reschedule is really tough sometimes. So we want to avoid that if possible. If it is raining, I mean, there's nothing you can do about that, and you just cancel and hope then you just reschedule practice. Okay, with rescheduling stuff, if a match gets rained out, that match is going to be played at the next practice at the same courts that they were going to be at, okay? So if I'm a boys team and I practice on Tuesday, Thursday, my match gets canceled on Friday, that next Tuesday, we're playing our match, and we're going to be at Oak Canyon because our match was originally at Oak Canyon, okay? You might want to tell your elementary team that you're practicing later because your middle school match might go long, that's another thing you might need to think about. But if you do have to cancel and reschedule a match, just make sure to talk with your coach rep. They'll kind of work you through what you need to do and what you should expect. It's also in the coach handbook if you don't remember me talking about it to you, okay? So the coach handbook will go over what you need to do about that, okay? Okay. Any questions at all about anything? It doesn't have to be what we talked about just right now. Yes? You're co-head coach, right? Okay. We're going to split up into groups, and I'm going to have you with a group of other co-head coaches, and they're going to tell you how they do it. But usually, your inter-team match, you use that to split your team in half evenly, and then you can choose. I know co-head coaches that practice together and do their matches separately, and I know coaches that do it completely separate. Like Anna and Matt don't practice together. They're rivals. So I think they're friends. But they're definitely rivals. So, but I've had people who do practice together and then they just do their matches separately. So it's however you want to do it. What are you at? Willow? Mountain Ridge? Okay. You might want to practice together just because there's only 3 courts there. And it would be easier with just probably doing it all together. But we'll go into groups and they'll kind of explain what you do and how you can do it. They're going to know a lot better than me because they've co-head coached for lots of seasons now. Okay, other questions? Yes? You could potentially, yes. I would not recommend it because then I have to find someone else, but you can. If you're a high schooler and I gave you a lot of assignments, which I usually do because you said yes, and you're overwhelmed at school, you can let me know that you have too many assignments. That's totally fine. School is more important than tennis, and that's the way it will always be. So if you're looking for a brighter future and you want to excel in your education, that's totally fine. If you're a head coach, I'm going to cry a little bit more though. Okay. Other questions? Yeah?
You want Slack to be our main communication tool.
Yes.
One thing that jumped out at me is you were posting lineups on the website. It seems to me that something like a lineup and or a schedule might fit better in Slack.
You can do it however you want. I have some coaches who only use Slack, and I have other coaches who use their team website.
Okay, so it's okay to have...
Yeah, if you just want to throw, the website is there just if you want to use it as a tool. I know some coaches love it because then anytime someone asks a question, they can just put the link and then it's just right there and they never have to pull it up again. So it's up to you and what you like to do. I know our Timberline girls coach, he made it his own. He has pictures of all his girls and all his team. He's been coaching there for years now, so he really made it his own. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. It's really up to you as a coach. And if you're a first-time coach and if it's overwhelming to try and do your website and Slack, just do Slack. Okay, good question. In case you didn't know, you do have a team website made for your team that you can use. It's really just for like static information that doesn't change, so like the match schedule or frequently asked questions, because parents sometimes have a lot of questions, so there is already a setup frequently asked questions you can do there. And if you have a pretty good idea of what your ladder is, I would post it there too. Yes, good question. That's just your lineup of your team, and you can change it however you want, or you can just keep it the same however you want. Yeah?
Just a quick one about like lineups. You don't want like challenge matches to happen during practice, right?
You can. It's kind of like if you give a mouse a cookie though. So if you have one kid, then all of a sudden you have all the kids, and you might be at a location that only has 4 courts. So that it might not be in your best interest, just like because you might have things you want to work on, since at the last match you noticed everyone double faulted a million times. Like maybe you'd rather work on serves. So I would, like if it's pretty obvious that someone needs to move around, I would do a couple challenge matches. But if it's the same kid challenging the same kid over and over again and they win like 1 time out of 7, like they still lost 6 times. So I'd probably just tell him that why don't we wait a couple weeks and see if they improve? So I'm totally fine if you do it, but you just kind of got to do it smart. That's why we want you kind of to use that first week to really figure it out, because we really do have a short season. It's only 2 months, it's 5 matches, and then end of season tournaments, 4 if you're elementary. Yes? So it should be on the same, so there's a Google Doc. The first one is a link you can share with parents, and then the second one is the one you can edit. So if you need help, message Anna Cheryl. She should be able to help you with that. Okay. This is just a general idea of practice format if you needed help. It is a long time if you think of, like, I have an hour and a half with these kids. That's a really long time. But if you break it up into sections, it goes pretty fast. So if you do 3 to 3:15, you're warming up, you're stretching. If you're brand new to your team, you can include, like, get to know you games, or I realized one season, at the end of the season, that some of the kids didn't know everyone's name. So you might want to do that, because they might not know each other's names. You can do that as part of your first 15 minutes, and then I break it up into like 20-minute chunks usually of a skill or a drill or something, okay? And that makes it a little easier. And then I always finish with a game. Never, ever, ever start with a game, and never, ever let players dictate what you're doing that day. So come with a plan and be smart. Any question about practice stuff? Okay, if you need practice help, feel free to check out the website on all the coaching stuff, or you can talk with your coach rep. They've run so many practices, they have a bunch of ideas. Okay. Okay, so this is before matches. You need to check your own players, who's coming and who's not, so you have a good idea of who's coming and who's not. You need to reach out to the opposing coach, check how many players they have, check how many courts they have, and I would also have a conversation about when you're having which players show up, okay? Because you might not be on the same page about that. So if there are 3 courts, you can start with both singles, and so first singles, second singles, and first doubles, but that's not a lot of players going at the same time. So you might want to have instead all your doubles start, so you have 6 players going, and then throw in the singles. So you might want to have that conversation with your other coach to see how you want the match to go, if it's a small amount of courts. If there's 6 courts, you want to make sure you have all of your varsity there and the beginning of your JV, because there's a lot of courts, okay? So you need to have that conversation with the opposing coach. Don't just assume they're thinking the same as you, okay? Okay, and then you want to let parents know when they should arrive, okay? And that's really just going to depend on how many courts there are and where they are in the lineup. Okay, so if you saw on the template kind of that lineup and they had different times, usually I have the first set of people show up at 3:15, and then the next set I have show up like 30 to 45 minutes later, because those first matches are going to take longer because they're varsity matches and they're 8-game pro set, so they take about 45 minutes. The next set is going to take 30, and every section after that usually takes 30 minutes to finish. So I have the next set of group come like 30 minutes later, okay? Does that make sense, or do you have questions? Okay, and you're going to want to do this. Every season we have parents in their little reviews complain about how they waited 2 hours. And that's just because either they didn't know that their coach told them to come at a different time, or that their coach didn't know that they should tell them to come at a different time. Okay, so don't have all your players coming all at once at the same time. Unless you're trying to build team unity and you tell parents you're trying to do that, then have everyone come at the same time. Okay. There's also a little section for snacks and drinks. You are not in charge of getting players to and from, you're not in charge of snacks, but you are going to want to involve the parents as much as you can. And a really good way to do that is not coaching or calling lines like they want to, is getting them involved with snacks, carpools, team parties. So there's a team party at the end of the year or the end of the season that you need to kind of put on. And I would make sure your parents are super involved with that, and let them know that at matches and stuff, they're not to be calling lines and stuff. So get them involved really like super awesomely where you can, but let them know at like matches and stuff, it's just coaches who are coaching and they're just there to cheer. Okay, any questions? Okay. Oh, okay, like here's a good idea. So 3:15 is when, like this is if you had 4 courts. So you'd have your 2 varsity and your 2 varsity doubles, singles and doubles show up, and then you'd tell your next row of people to come at 4. I usually say give or take 15 minutes, and then I have my next people come at 4:30, and I say give or take 15 minutes, okay? So you don't have everyone show up at the same time. And if you're a smaller team, remember you need to make sure that you have enough players stick around to play all of their players. Okay, any questions? Am I on time? I have 8 minutes, okay. Weekly report. So this is for head coaches. Assistant coaches, your hours are going to be reported by your head coach, okay? In the weekly report, this is kind of what it will probably look like. Sage is making it right now. The most important thing is probably your match scores. We use your match scores for region record, so you want to make sure you get them in. Region record is by position, so it doesn't matter who plays what. It's just like the first singles record or second singles record, okay? So the first section, yeah, you'll tell me all the scores, what time you arrived, what time you left. You're gonna let me know what happened at practice. So your coach reps are gonna read this, and if you have any problems or issues, they're gonna read through this. This is also where you're gonna let me know if like something like a small accident happened, like someone stubbed their toe. That's a small accident. Or I did have someone write in there one time that they accidentally broke someone's Apple Watch. So this is where you tell me that would happen. If they like broke an arm or something, we have a different protocol for that we'll go over in the next meeting, okay? So that's a big deal. You don't want to just put that on your weekly report. A broken arm is something bigger and you have to tell us. And then you'll also let me know kind of your hours, attendance, and then if you drive over 15 minutes, this is where you're gonna let me know what you drove, so you can get travel compensation. Questions about the weekly report? This is due Saturdays at 8 p.m. And if you don't fill it out, you won't get paid until the next pay period. So if you want to get paid on time, you got to fill it out on time. Yes, 2 hands. First here. Yeah. So if you drive like 20 or 25 minutes, then you'll want to keep track. So anything over that 15 minutes, you'll get paid for. Yes, so if you have an assistant coach, you need to keep track of their hours. So if they were there for both practices, you're just going to check the box that says they were there for both practices. Okay. This is also if you had like a sub or something. This is where you tell me who that sub was so I know who to pay. Okay.
Make sure if you have a sub, you get their first and last name because there are multiple people with the same first name. It said in the handbook that assistants aren't expected to help at middle school matches, or like you have to approve that. So are we, like, should we go and not get paid? Should we ask you if we go, should go?
That is a great question. So for the inter-team match, you can get special permission from me or Rob. Like if you have a really large team and you need extra hands, you can for sure ask me or Rob if you want to have extra hands at the inter-team match. And maybe the first match if you have a lot of beginners. After that for middle school though, we don't really expect assistant coaches to go to the middle school matches unless you have a specific need. And you would want to message me or Rob for special cases. For elementary, though, we definitely want assistant coaches to be there, and they are paid. Because elementary is wild. It's just wild, guys. It's so wild. So if you can be there to the elementary matches and you're assistant, you should go because scoring is interesting, rotating is interesting. My favorite is it was so windy, the little rubber lines that kind of dictate their size of court blew away, and they were just calling in and out still, and I was like, what lines are you using? They're like, it was out. And I'm like, your lines are over there. So, elementary school, guys, it's fun, but yes, okay. Yes. Good question. No. So everything is just encore hours or travel time. That's all we really pay for. And to show up 15 minutes early to your match. So those are the things we pay for. Everything else is unpaid time. So the first week you'll probably spend a lot of time messaging parents, but after that it shouldn't be too long. We try and make up for it in your pay, but we can't really keep track of 80 people, all their hours. So the pay is just encore hours. Good question. Except for matches, if you're there 15 minutes early to like set up lines or something, then we do pay for that. Any other questions?
So like for elementary matches, are you trying to like keep score for every like there's 6 matches at once, or
You teach them to score, and you just let them go, and you occasionally hop by, and hopefully your assistant is there. And okay, I will say, if you have parents who know what they're doing and they're comfortable helping for elementary school, that's probably the one place where I would use parents, is if you have players who have a really hard time figuring out how to keep track of score. For those first few weeks, I would have parents help there, okay? And that's not coaching, that's not anything else. They're just there to help them keep track of the score and figure out where to stand. So that would be an exception to having parents help. You would want them to help with elementary, because it does get wild. But in general, though, we do want them to learn how to score on their own, because that's what they're going to be doing in the middle school league. Okay, good question. Okay, I have 1 minute. Here's your coach reps again. Make sure you check and see who your coach rep is. And he's your main, or he or she is your main point of contact, okay? Let's see. So if it rains, that's who you're contacting. If you need help finding a sub, you're contacting your coach rep. They're going to check in with you weekly if you're a head coach. They're going to go through your weekly report. So if you have a question that's not super urgent, you can leave it there. If it is urgent, you can just message them on Slack. If you need more equipment, you can either contact them or Anna Cheryl. Yes, okay. Subbing, we did that. Okay. We finished. Does anyone have any final questions? We do have more meetings to go to, so don't worry if there's just going to be more information thrown at you. But does anyone have any questions?
I was at Oak Canyon yesterday, and there was one that was completely torn.
Oh.
How do I get that fixed?
Is it completely down, or is it still hanging there on a little thread?
It's like a 2-foot gap in the middle.
Okay, Rob? What would you... Usually I tell Rob and he goes around and fixes things. Are you going to do that still?
Probably do some zip ties and make it semi-workable, but it'd be nice. That net really needs to be replaced.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
We're not technically in charge of the facilities, we just rent them. So we try and go through Alpine School District, but they're kind of horrible to go through, so...
yeah, so let me know, message me, and I will let the school know. In the meantime, if you can find like zip tie or something to
Yeah.
put a Band-Aid on it so we can take care of it.
So Canyon, the one where they have 6 courts, but 2 of them are like...
That's Canyon View. Yeah. Oh, Canyon just has 3. Okay, any other last questions before we hop to the next meeting? We're just going to go right. Well, we might actually give people a few minutes to get here, but... You two. Did I forget anything that a new coach might want to know? Okay, you're really going to want to read through the coach's handbook again and let this information solidify into your brain, okay? So the coach's handbook is kind of going to walk you through everything. There's even a step-by-step checklist of things that you should be doing, depending on what time of the season it is, okay? So make sure you look at that. There's also, in case you need help figuring out what to do for practice, there is a checklist of what things your players should be able to do by the end of the season. Okay, One thing is they definitely need to know how to score. They need to know how to do a tiebreak, because I cannot tell you how many matches go to a freaking tiebreak at like region and state tournaments. So they need to know, like, you can be on the court and help them, but what always happens is this court goes to a tiebreak and so do the other two, and you can't be on all three courts. Okay, so you want to make sure your players know how to do tiebreaks, that they know how to score, that they know how to do all of the different strokes. Okay. Any final questions? Okay, cool. Take a 3-minute break while I wait and see if more people are going to show up. You can stand up and wiggle.